Yes, we are live. We are back for the WrestleMania 41 Go Home edition of Monday Night Raw on Netflix. The show has just gone off the air, finished with a, I guess, little teaser for what to expect this coming Saturday for WrestleMania Night 1. The main event, of course, is going to have Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Seth Rollins. Overall thoughts as we go into this, and as always, get your thoughts in, get your opinions in the chat. Mac Matts there says, big up her and appreciate you tuning in. Also, be sure to subscribe. As you can see right here, we are just one subscriber away from 20,850. A nice round number. Hopefully, we can get to 21,000 soon, which would be amazing. We only recently just hit 20,000, and that was my aim for the year. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. Also, you can join the WN365 roster. Links in the video description. It's also pinned in the chat. You can scan the QR code when it appears on the sidebar. You can also see all the upcoming watch-alongs for WrestleMania week there. Show's just gone off the air. I'm going to be honest, guys. In terms of a go-home episode of Monday Night Raw, the flagship show, it's on Netflix, 10-year deal, billions of dollars, WrestleMania this weekend, Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. That was not good. Not in terms of it was, all the angles were bad and it was terrible to watch and it was awful to watch. My biggest problem is it was just filler. Nothing happened. No, I suppose main event, you could say main event angle. They progressed that a little bit with the rain shove on Heyman and Rollins standing tall. But what this show felt like, and what it really was we have 2.5 hours of television to fill before our biggest show of the year. We don't want anyone to get hurt. That's in a significant match. We've told all the stories we're going to tell. We don't really have anything else to really add to it. We're going to have some video packages for some matches because there's nowhere else to go. And we're just going to sort of cut some promos and have some TV matches just to keep the crowd happy. I feel a bit sorry for the people in Sacramento who maybe bought what was probably very expensive tickets to go see it's going to be the final Raw before WrestleMania. It's going to be this big, exciting show. Not really. We didn't really get all that. We just got WrestleMania's at the weekend. I mean, I think SmackDown might be a bit different on Friday because they'll already be in Vegas by that point. It's going to be from the T-Mobile Arena and be 24 hours until WrestleMania, so that's exciting. That's quite exciting. But in terms of this show, I mean, look, I've been a pro wrestling fan for a long time. I've seen a lot of go home episodes of Monday Night Raw before WrestleManias, and in terms of just not really offering all that much, that's up there. It really is, and I think if anything, it probably encapsulates the build to this year's WrestleMania event, which is just, how many times have I done these post shows during the road to WrestleMania, during the build to WrestleMania, and said that it's a bit flat, isn't it? And it's like you look at the WrestleMania card and you go, well, obviously the main event of night 2 I'm excited for because I think Cena's going to win and that's going to be historic, and the main event of night 1 should be good, but everything else just feels really flat and just sort of, does it feel like WrestleMania? Coming out of that show tonight, did you go, right, I'll tell you what, WrestleMania week, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling WrestleMania week. Yes, I'm feeling this. And the answer is not really. Not really at all. I haven't been sold on any more matches than I was going into the show. I mean, again, SmackDown on Friday will be a bit different because it's Friday and we'll be close to WrestleMania by that point. But it just wasn't that. This just wasn't that at all. If you haven't already, click the like button. We've already got 40 people through the door. Let's get the likes up, and also be sure to subscribe. As I mentioned, one like away from 20,850. And let me know your thoughts on what you saw this evening. Am I off on that? Are you also just kind of not feeling it? Why do you think that is? Is it because last year was a really good build to WrestleMania? Is it inevitable, or is they just, It's just been what it's been like on this build to this WrestleMania. Let me know your thoughts. So the show begins. Michael Cole says later on in the show, I'm going to interview Gunther. Gunther appears and says, I want to do the interview now. So Gunther comes to the ring and tells Michael Cole, no, we're doing the interview now. And as you can see right there, gets right into the face of the camera and sort of keeps talking about Jey Uso. And he's not afraid of Jey Uso regardless of what he says. And Gunther, he's going to retain his world championship at WrestleMania and embarrass Jey Uso. Jey Uso's going to lose for the 4th time in a row. Promo was fine. Gunther did get some good heat. When it comes to this match, obviously there's been criticism of it since Jey Uso won the Royal Rumble. Now, Jey Uso winning the Royal Rumble wasn't the most popular decision. I as I've said at the time, I do get it. I understand. Uso, super popular. We see it later on in the show. Gets a great crowd reaction. I wonder if that's because of him or because of his entrance and the chant. I think that's part of it. When the promos aren't really that, the matches certainly aren't that. So I wasn't really into it. In fairness, you know, they did the angle a few weeks ago in London where Gunther just beat the hell out of Jimmy Uso, made him bleed. I thought that was a great angle, and I went, right, that feels like a WrestleMania angle. I'm into that. I can get behind that. And now they're kind of doing that. He's not scared of Gunther now, and actually Gunther's the one that's scared. I mean, we know the outcome. Jey Uso's winning at WrestleMania, because if they don't, then he will never be a world champion. He'd have lost 4 matches for the world title. They're going to put him over. I think Gunther's got a bit of a difficult job in terms of trying to get a really good match out of Jey. And I wonder what happens with Gunther after this. His world title reign hasn't been amazing. They haven't booked him amazingly in it. I think the best they probably booked him was that angle with Jimmy when he was covered in blood. That's what you want to see. Or Gunther having great matches. That's what you want to see. That's what made his Intercontinental Championship reign so great. The promo was fine, but again, it was just a kind of pre-WrestleMania promo, and that was about it. M. Bison says, not going to lie, Raw was mid. Raheel says, I can't lie, I only care about Cena versus Rhodes. Only reason I'm watching WrestleMania. And of course, we didn't get any real progression in that. We did get a video package, but Cena is going to be on SmackDown this Friday. That's all Cody Rhodes, so we'll get we'll get a promo on that from them. Matt says, I think Jay's time's now. Matt says, Jey has the potential to be a big star in the future. I think it leads to Jey Uso versus Jacob Fatu. First match of the evening, we had Bayley going up against Liv Morgan. Of course, they're facing off as part of the Women's Tag Team Championship match at WrestleMania. We're getting Bayley and Lyra Valkyria versus Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. Closing moments of the match, we saw interference from both Raquel Rodriguez and also Lyra Valkyria. Bayley gets a jackknife cover, pins Liv Morgan, so they've got momentum going into WrestleMania. That's, to me, I mean, if you've been watching wrestling long enough, particularly WWE, if you're standing tall or you win a match on the episode of television before the big pay-per-view, chances are, not always, but chances are you're not going to win at the upcoming pay-per-view. And I think that's the case with Lyra Valkyria and Bayley. I think they're going to do a story where Bayley turns on Valkyria. Obviously, they had the Women's Intercontinental Championship match a couple of weeks ago, which Valkyria won. And after the match, they did the thing where Bayley won't shake her hand. Then she came back and did shake her hand, and they're now going for the tag titles. I think Morgan and Raquel win. And probably Bayley turns heel after the match. They continue to feud over the Intercontinental Championship. Bayley eventually wins it, which I think will be a good move. And I think turning heel will be a good move for Bayley because, ironically enough, for someone who was like the total babyface during her NXT days, she's better off as a heel in this version of her character. And they just need to change her music as well. Her music sucks. But you could say that about a lot of Def Rebel songs, couldn't you? So yeah, I don't think they're going to win the women's tag titles at Mania. And also, and again, I'm going to say this for a lot of the matches for WrestleMania, I just don't really care. They haven't given me enough reason to really care about this. I'm happy for Liv to be on WrestleMania because considering the work she's done for the women's division on Raw over the past 12 months, she absolutely deserves it and deserves to be in a more featured position. Largely carried the division, and for her to not be in a featured match at Mania does really suck. So I'm glad to see her in a good spot, or a spot on the show, not necessarily a good spot, but a spot on the show. But they're going to retain their titles. And Bison says, every build for those for this Mania has been so disappointing. Don't get how people can think this is good. It's been very, very flat, to say the very least, hasn't it? Next up, we had a match pitting Rey Mysterio of the LWO against Julius Creed. Of course, you had American Made out at ringside, as well as the LWO. They all got thrown out, and eventually Rey Mysterio gets the victory, hits the 619 and the splash. El Grande Americano came out and tried to get involved in the match. Eventually, he did take out everyone. He's got the loaded mask, so he's got the metal plate that he puts in his mask, and he took people out. Of course, he's set to face Rey Mysterio on WrestleMania Saturday. First of all, I apologize in advance, because I am going to start. This is going to be quite a whiny post show, I feel like, so apologies for that. But look, I'm really happy for Chad Gable that he's getting a singles match at WrestleMania against Rey Mysterio. I'm sure the match is going to be good. You know, the match will be good. Maybe it might be even great. You know, I still don't know about this gimmick. I feel like this is a really tired, creative choice. And the reason I say that is because I made the comparison during the watch along, and people might disagree with me. If this was a gimmick that was done when Vince McMahon was head of creative for WWE, people would hate it. They would say, oh, it's tired. The whole, you're under the mask. No, I'm not. Mr. America, Hulk Hogan, Juan Cena. I mean, it's the exact same thing as Owen Hart and the Blue Blazer. That's Owen Hart under there. No, it's not. No, it's not. I'm the Blue Blazer. I'm different people. And they even have someone else under the mask. And then the actual person runs around and goes, see, it's not me. I'm different. It's a bit not great. But a featured spot for Chad at WrestleMania and a match against Rey Mysterio that he should win. I think we're probably going towards a mask versus mask match. I don't know if they've got any upcoming PLEs or TV tapings booked from Mexico. If they did, doing a mask versus mask match there, Rey Mysterio versus El Grande Americano, then it's revealed to be Chad Gable. I get that. That makes good business sense. But I don't know if there's any upcoming Mexican shows. So we'll wait and see for that. But once again, it's just a bit... I mean, a sort of, by definition, you can't have this with every match, I get that. But by definition, a WrestleMania match shouldn't feel like a match that you could just have on TV every week. And you feel like El Grande Americano, Chad Gable versus Rey Mysterio, whilst it's a good match, you go, if I saw that on Raw or SmackDown, I'd go like, oh, that'd be a good match. But WrestleMania, a WrestleMania angle? Yeah. But the match, I think, will be fine. Breadwinner says, kind of disappointed this Raw didn't give me the escapism I need from United. Well, I don't think anything can, but definitely this Raw didn't do that either. Next up, we had AJ Styles come out. Of course, AJ Styles, he had his match against Karrion Kross. Karrion Kross, he did a spot where I think he actually kind of bought in, thought he might be legitimately injured, have a bad ankle. Wasn't the case, of course, took advantage. AJ Styles, though, gets the victory, phenomenal forearm. Again, it was a fine TV match. Don't have a problem with that. One of the better matches on the show. AJ, of course, shaking off some ring rust ahead of his match against Logan Paul at the weekend. Speaking of which, out comes Logan Paul, runs down the crowd in California, talking about how there wasn't good enough to be in LA, not smart enough to be in San Diego. That's why it's in Sacramento. This leads to a physical confrontation. Karrion Kross kind of gets involved. Logan Paul hits the right hand. Of course, he's got the metal plate in his right hand, and then hits the pulverizer and stands tall. I think this is one of those rare cases where Logan Paul actually is going to win at WrestleMania. I don't think that AJ Styles wins this one. I think Logan, it would make sense Logan Paul win as well. I think the match again will be good. Obviously, AJ's one of the best workers ever, and Logan Paul, with time to prepare and with a solid hand in there, he can follow definitely. So that match will be fine. I'm not sure I'm really super, super excited about it, to be honest. I think, again, it's just a fine match, but I'm not really... There's very little, and maybe this is the part of it. There's very little I'm invested in. Like, I'm truly invested, and I go, I'm really excited to see that, or the outcome of that. That's difficult to predict, or there's very little. I'm just like, that's going to be really great. I'm just not feeling it. I'm just not. Chitman says, there's no match really that makes you feel like this is unpredictable, or man, this has been a great story apart from the main events, maybe. And that's where I would agree. Everything else just kind of feels like, I don't know, an afterthought, or, well, we've got to fill out the card, we've got to get people on the card, and can't just be, two main events, got to fill it out somehow. I don't know. It's difficult to describe. It is difficult to describe just this sort of feeling of just, it's just not really that excited. And you probably would say the same about, it's not just in comparison to last year, it's in comparison to quite a few PLEs, isn't it? Just, I'm sure we'll come out of both nights of WrestleMania going like, oh yeah, they were good matches and that was a good show, and they probably got surprises there. But like tonight's episode of Raw, it was mainly recap packages, promos and adverts, and a couple of matches in between there on a wrestling show. That's what it really was, which is kind of wild when you think about it, really, isn't it? So, so Logan Paul stands tall over AJ to close out the segment. I think that's going to happen at WrestleMania this weekend. Next up, we get a Jey Uso promo. Of course, he does the big entrance through the crowd. Then, before he even starts doing the promo, does basically another version of the entrance. The crowd are doing the yeets. He does a promo basically saying that he's not scared of Gunther and he's going to win at WrestleMania. He's going to win at WrestleMania, I think. But I do think actually this segment, actually said quite a lot about maybe some people's issue with Jey Uso, which is outside of the entrance, it was kind of nothing. As a segment goes, it was kind of just nothing. It came out. Everyone did yeet, and the crowd loved it. One thing you can't say the crowd doesn't love it, because they do. Crowd loves it, and they're doing yeet, and in between every line of his or pause in his promo, he's doing yeet, and they're doing yeet, and it's great. And Pat McAfee and Michael Cole going crazy, and he sells a ton of merchandise, no doubt about that. They're going yeet, but then when it came time to talking, then what? Nothing happened. And it's a bit like at the weekend. Are you kidding me? In a stadium, Allegiant Stadium, that place is going to be bouncing. It's going to come out. They're going to go crazy. They're going to be saying yeet, and it's going to be like, look at the social media clips are going to go viral, and you're going to go, look at that shot. That's amazing. And then the bell's going to ring, and they're probably going to go quiet, because that's the problem with Jey Uso matches is that they're so excited and they're so into the entrance that once the bell, nothing can overcome the entrance. It's not like, that's why people like say The Undertaker was so great. Yeah, he had an amazing entrance, but then they delivered in terms of the match, delivered in terms of the ring. Bryan Danielson, the same one. He comes out, crowd's going, yes, yes, yes. And that's why it always pissed me off when people said, it's just the yes chant that's over, not Bryan Danielson or Daniel Bryan. Well, you go, well, no, he has great matches afterwards because he can follow it up with a great match. Jey Uso can't do that, as consistently as someone like Bryan Danielson or The Undertaker or whoever, by going, follow that. How do you follow that entrance? And it's kind of same, how do you follow that promo? That entrance in terms of the promo? You don't. But he's going to win at the weekend because, obviously, look, super popular, the entrance is, sells a ton of merch, and appeals to certainly a big demographic. So I don't necessarily have an issue with that, but I wonder what his world title reign is going to look like. But both world championship competitors had their promos this evening. JB says it all when the best build-up was Tiffany and Charlotte going off script. And Will says, this Go Home Raw did nothing for me as far as Mania is concerned. I'm still at a 6 for Mania excitement, which is fair. I mean, that's like sort of the base standard, isn't it? Sort of the generic WrestleMania excitement. We then have a backstage interview of Kathy Kelly interviewing Intercontinental Champion Bron Breakker. He's attacked by the Judgment Day, of course. This then leads to the next match, which is Penta facing off against Finn Balor, which, to be fair, was a good match. I mean, I am looking forward to this match in the sense of I do actually think, in fairness, they've done a good job in building this title match up, for WrestleMania. I think it's quite difficult to predict who will win that one. You could see a scenario where obviously Bron Breakker retains. You can see a scenario where I think Dominic wins. Dominic would be my pick. I think Dominic might win. You could see a scenario where Penta wins. Maybe not necessarily Finn Balor winning, but that's fairly unpredictable. And they've done a good job there, and they've been putting those teases out there. Bit surprised it's not like a ladder match. You just feel like they've done Intercontinental Championship ladder matches in the past. They could have done that. Eventually, Bron Breakker comes out, causes the double DQ because he just attacks everyone. Does a double spear on Dominic and Carlito. Goes for another spear, but eventually Penta fights him off, does the big dive to the outside, and he stands tall. So by logic, that means he's not going to win the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania. He could. I don't think you can rule that out. Again, my pick is going to be Dom. If I had to rank them, I think it's Dominic's most likely to win. I think then Bron retains, then Penta wins, and then Finn wins. I think I'd probably go in that ranking. But to be fair, I don't have a problem with necessarily the build. This feels like the build to an Intercontinental Championship match at WrestleMania, I guess. The build was better last year because it was Gunther's title reign and Sami Zayn, and that was a story. But Sami Zayn's not even on WrestleMania this year, so unless he faces maybe Randy Orton, he comes back. We then go into the build to the main event segment. Paul Heyman, he was waiting all episode, waiting for Roman Reigns to arrive. They kept hyping up on commentary. Yeah. Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns, they haven't spoken since Heyman granted CM Punk's favor to be in his corner at WrestleMania. CM Punk says, "Look, you've been waiting here all night. I'm gonna cheer you up. Look into my eyes. What do you see? Cult of personality." And then Roman Reigns, he shows up and he looks sickened, absolutely sickened. This then leads to Roman Reigns coming out, and usually what happens in these segments is Paul Heyman hands the microphone to Roman Reigns. But this time, Roman, he didn't want it from Heyman. Didn't want it. He questioned him, said, "Why did you betray me? Why did you turn your back on me? Why did you do that?" Says it wasn't me who asked for Punk to team with me at War Games. It was you. So why am I now responsible for this favor when it's all about you? And Heyman, before he can really say anything, out comes Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins comes out and does his piece where he says that, to be fair, he did a good job of sort of explaining his point of view, saying that this is a really important triple threat match, the most important triple threat match in WrestleMania history, which, maybe agree to disagree with that. There's one that they can't really talk about, which was the main event of WrestleMania 20, and there's other ones. You could argue that the first ever women's main event in WrestleMania history, which was a triple threat match, pretty important, definitely very important. But he says it's really important because it's about the future of the business, the future of the industry. And you can't have people like Roman Reigns be the future of the industry because you just show up when you want to. And you can't have part-timers being the future of the industry. And you can't have people like CM Punk who just want to take their ball and go home. So I'm having to save the industry. Which, to be fair, good rationale. That's a good story. I understand that. I still say Seth Rollins is in the match to take the pinfall. He also then, kind of weirdly, this was a bit odd, where he effectively, the cliffhanger last week on Raw was, now Paul Heyman owes Seth Rollins a favor because he didn't send him to the hospital, didn't stomp him. So now you owe me a favor. And effectively, Rollins comes out this week and goes, he doesn't because I don't expect anything from Paul Heyman. I don't expect anything from Paul Heyman. I don't expect anything from a scumbag. Is that a red herring? I have seen some say that, well, maybe WrestleMania Saturday ends with Heyman. He's now aligned with Seth Rollins. I don't get that. I don't know why they would do that. I really have no desire to see Paul Heyman be Seth Rollins' manager. Just very not needed. I mean, Rollins can cut a promo. He doesn't need Paul Heyman there. It just feels a bit weird. There's no link, as far as I'm aware. So that would just be a bit odd. And what's the favor? Oh, yeah, I'm going to grant you the favor of turning on my best friend and the person who inducted me into the Hall of Fame for the sake of a favor. That doesn't make any sense to me. So, yeah, I don't see that being the case. If it was like Rollins is there just to take the pin, whether it's from Reigns or whether it's from CM Punk. So Rollins explains why it's so important. This then leads to physicality, where Roman says, "I've made my decision." He attacks Seth Rollins, gets him out of the ring, and then, as you can see right there, shoves Paul Heyman to the ground. Gets physical with Paul Heyman. Not the first time he has, but shoves Paul Heyman to the ground, which, of course, brings out CM Punk. Punk sends Reigns out the ring, checks on Heyman in the corner. This then leads to Roman Reigns. You can't see him in the shot there, appears behind him, spears CM Punk. But whilst Roman Reigns is focused on CM Punk and focused on Paul Heyman, it allows Seth Rollins to hit him in the back with a steel chair, reminiscent of the Shield, with the breakup of the Shield, of course. You can see he's kind of Shield-inspired kind of situation, standing tall over the WrestleMania sign, and then Rollins is looking at Heyman, holding the steel chair, standing over Punk and standing over Reigns as the show goes off the air, and that was the last thing we saw on the Go Home Raw for WrestleMania. I mean, look, I think if two matches I'm excited for are the two main events. They're the two matches that have had the most build going into WrestleMania. Look, it's unpredictable who's going to win, which I think is good. Could easily be Punk, could easily be Reigns. I mean, the fact that they've spent a lot of this build focusing on Paul Heyman says to me he has to be involved in the outcome. How could he not be? If Paul Heyman isn't involved in the outcome for this match, then kind of what's the point? What are they building towards? What are they going towards? Is the outcome that he does eventually turn on Reigns, and that's the end of the Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman bloodline saga? Does he turn on CM Punk? We've already seen that before, by the way. He's already turned on Punk in WWE storyline previously. Do we then rehash what happened, over a decade ago with the whole he turned on him, and then that led to CM Punk versus Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam? Does he once again align with Reigns, and that leads to heel Roman Reigns and CM Punk versus Reigns at SummerSlam? Maybe they do that. Is it Punk turning heel, and they're going to do, Punk heel versus, I don't know, babyface Roman, but then heel Punk going to win the world championship from Jey Uso, continue to go after Reigns' family? Maybe I could see that. Although I still do think that if you turn Punk heel, you've still got to get CM Punk versus John Cena at some point as part of the retirement tour. Do you have two heels face off? Or do you save that until John Cena turns babyface at the end of the year? Maybe. So the fact you can have those kind of conversations, that I think does show the unpredictability of it. But overall, as an episode of television to try and sell you, I guess no one's really on the fence about watching WrestleMania, especially now it's on Netflix and Peacock, but it was nothing episode of TV for a very lackluster build to WrestleMania, which is disappointing. And like I said, I don't have any doubts that there'll be good nights of WrestleMania of action at the weekend, but it was flat. It was very, very flat. Will says it feels like no matter what they do, Seth still feels like the odd one out in this feud. Also says I would have been okay with Roman versus Punk for the custody of Heyman on the forklift. James also says I was more excited for WrestleMania before tonight's episode of Raw, which is not how it should work. Well, I think, like I said, the natural WrestleMania excitement will kick in as we get closer. I think SmackDown hopefully will be better on Friday because of that. They'll be in Las Vegas. WrestleMania festivities will have kicked off, which will be exciting. But as a way to kick off WrestleMania week, just very, very, very flat and not really a lot to sort of write home about, is there? And for a WrestleMania that's build has been criticized, to have this as be sort of the final show, it was just very, very flat. So we'll see what happens. Appreciate everyone that's tuned in. Appreciate everyone that's subscribed. As you can see right there, we did hit over now. We are at 20,853 subscribers. So we are now less than 150 subscribers to go until 21,000. So appreciate everyone that's subbed. Appreciate everyone that's clicked the like button. We've got 45 people watching at the moment. We've got 15 likes. Let's see if we can get to 20, 25 likes on the way out. So be sure to click the like button if you haven't already, and be sure to subscribe. News videos will be coming up tomorrow. In addition to that, we'll have more countdown videos, WrestleMania-specific countdown videos coming up over the next few days. Check out the sidebar for all upcoming watch-alongs. A reminder, we're going to be live for SmackDown on Friday, plus a post show. Saturday, NXT Stand and Deliver that you can see right there. A post show, we've got time. WrestleMania Saturday will be live and a post show. Sunday will be live for WrestleMania Sunday and a post show, and then the Raw after WrestleMania will be live for that, plus a post show too. So I appreciate everyone that's tuned in. As I said, we'll be back for more content coming up later this week. Appreciate everyone, and I'll speak to you again very soon. I'm out of here. Peace.